Good morning, everyone. It's the 8th of July. It's the 8th of July. It's Monday morning. And do you believe that we can change what God has already ordained? Do you believe that we can change what God hath ordained? I believe that's what the Arminian doctrine teaches, that through the doctrine of free will, that man has the power to alter his destiny. Could Esau, by decision, alter his destiny? Could Judas, by his own decision, alter his destiny when it was told before he was born what he would do? He would betray Christ. Could Peter have altered denying Christ 3 times when Christ told him he was going to do it? Could Zacchaeus stayed up in the sycamore tree and not come down when God said, I must go to your house today? Could the lady kept from meeting Christ at the well in Samaria when Christ said, I must needs go to Samaria? Could Nathanael alter meeting Christ when Christ said he saw him under the sycamore tree before he even met him? Could Jonah have kept from being swallowed by a whale? We cannot alter what God has ordained. We can't change what God has ordained. Now, we don't have to like what God has ordained, but we have to come to a resignation that we can't change it. There's a lot of people believe that you can change your destiny. Ephesians 1:11 says, in whom also we have obtained an inheritance, being predestinated according to the purpose of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his own will. It doesn't say some things, it says all things. There's a lot of people that don't believe that. They don't believe that God works all things after the counsel of his own will. They believe that they have a part in what happens to them by their own decisions and their own choices. We cannot change what God has ordained. It's a hard thing to accept. Only God can give us the resignation to accept the fact that he is sovereign. We cannot cause ourselves to believe that God is sovereign, that God is God, and we are not. Colossians 1:16 says, for by him, Christ, were all things created that are in heaven, that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. That's pretty conclusive. You can't change what God has ordained. But we have over 90% of Christian so-called churches teaching something contrary to that, don't we? They say that you can change your destiny by your choices. You can determine whether you go to heaven or hell by a decision you make. Well, Christ said when he was dying on the cross, what was the last thing Christ said? It is finished. He said it is finished. He didn't say we finished it by our decisions. He didn't say I'll start it and you finish it. He said, it is finished. And so everything that happens in our life, God has purposed all things after the counsel of his own will. In fact, notice how he ties predestination to that. Notice how he ties predestination to the working of all things after the counsel of his own will. It's directly tied to predestination. Predetermining beforehand that it would happen. God made a decision, if you want to call it that. God made a decision to create heavens and the earth. And he did it in 6 days. Notice what it says in verse 9 of Ephesians 1. Having made known unto us the mystery of his will, according to his good pleasure, which he hath purposed in himself. And again, Ephesians 1:11, being predestinated according to the purpose of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his own will. It was predestined. People don't want to talk about predestination. They want to give themselves all the glory and everything. We can do nothing. There's a song that Charles Johnson, the revivers, used to sing, I can't even walk without him holding my hand. That's my testimony. I can't do anything apart from God's mercy and grace. Period. I can't repent of my sins. I can't feel sorry for my sins. I can't turn from my sins. I can't rest in the completed work of Christ. I can't take another step without Christ. If you ever have been around a multiply handicapped person, just talk to that multi-handicapped person, maybe the person that is in a wheelchair or paralyzed, and say, why don't you make a decision to change your life? Get up out of that wheelchair. I heard a testimony from Johnny Erickson Tata, who was in a tragic accident and was paralyzed for her whole life. And she said when she realized she would never walk again, it changed everything in her theological perspective. When we realize we can't change the course of events in our lives, when we realize that God is in control and we're not in control, it gives us a total different perspective of God, does it not? So that's what's on my mind this morning. We cannot change what God has ordained. God bless.